Hello everyone and welcome to Harry and Jen Do Horror with Friends. Today we'll hear from our first ever repeat guests, singer-songwriters Sam Lupowitz and Mandy Goldman, who joined us to discuss Zach Creggar's Barbarian from 2022. This is such a delightful conversation, we have a lot of ground to cover. Before we get into it, I want to mention that we are a full spoilers podcast, so if you haven't seen Barbarian, you really need to stop here, check it out, and then come back to us. This movie is really best when you come into it knowing as little about it as humanly possible. On the topic of content warnings, this conversation necessarily involves the topic of rape, so if that's a trigger for you, you may wish to steer clear of this one. Something that I beefed on this time was introductions. We fully skipped them because we were just champing at the bit to talk about the film. If you want to find Sam and Mandy's music, be sure to check out the show notes, which have a bunch of links to take you to our favorite works of theirs. And that's been kind of fun. I just decided to take this as a little curating task of my favorite stuff that they've done. Next month, we will discuss Who's Sarah the Bone Woman, which is a delightfully miserable Mexican-Peruvian supernatural / body horror film about motherhood and pregnancy. If that sounds like your jam, check it out before the next episode drops on September 10th. If you are enjoying what we're creating here, we once again ask you to rate and review and subscribe to us on the podcast streamer of your choice. If you have horror lovers in your life, do us a favor and put in a good word for us. All of these things help us to grow the show. All right, without further ado, here are Sam and Mandy to talk about Barbarian.
Yeah, his hotness is he's one of those like strange, weird hot people. I feel like
I gotcha.
He's like Dr. Frankenstein is making a hot person, and he's got his like essence of hot person, and we're gonna add just one little droplet of like Steve Buscemi.
Yeah,
and like, and that's what you get is Bill Skarsgard.
Dude.
We are here in the very studio of Sam Lupowitz and Mandy Goldman, and we are going to talk about Barbarian. How are you both?
Good.
Yeah, great.
Very good.
Stoked. Happy to be back.
Yeah, returning guests.
Our
today.
first, yeah.
But now maritally. We've returned maritally as
To be clear, though,
we were married before.
We were married before, just
but we didn't appear maritally upon the pod.
Yeah. No. So one of our new segments is actually the whole like Harry and Jen Do Horror with Friends thing, like talking like a little bit about the friendship in there.
Awesome.
And we seem to be on a streak of spouses that are going to be doing the show, right? Like yeah. So I don't know, guys. What do you see in each other?
Oh, okay. What do we see in each other? I don't know. He's my best friend.
Yeah. We do a lot. We
do everything together. We play the music.
Yeah.
That's mostly it. That's most of what we do.
It's a
We
large
watch
amount of
movies.
what
We play video games.
We play music.
We
yeah.
hang and we play music. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's pretty much it. Sometimes we do podcasts. Sometimes at the same time. Sometimes
my
not.
special sweet buddy, Peach Man. Special sweet buddy Peach Man. That's this guy over here. There are a lot of nicknames.
That is a nickname that emerged at this moment.
I definitely call him Peach Man.
Wow.
Sometimes because he's like a little peach. He's sweet like a little peach.
And and
sweet
soft,
and sensitive,
and soft and fuzzy. Yeah,
sweet and soft and fuzzy. Exactly.
Let's keep this ball rolling.
This is maybe grosser than the movie a little bit.
Decide what's too much to put on this podcast we like each other a lot, and we do really, really like dissecting media together.
Yes, we are two English majors.
Yes,
who like to English major all over
everything.
We tend to have a lot of English.
We do.
Yeah.
Well, it's because it's the medium. You
know,
I feel like
we've
analysis.
had so many English teachers or people who are English majors like on the podcast.
Yeah.
Because they're like, I'm going to analyze shit.
Yeah.
It's what we do.
That's all they taught us how to do.
That's true.
In English
I know.
college, just look
Not
really
gonna-
hard at it.
Yeah. It's not so much the making things, though we do that. Just it's not what we have a
thinking
degree in.
You're
Yeah.
right.
Yes.
We think about things other people made.
Cool. So we are here talking about Barbarian. Wild film.
Sure is.
Yeah, in tandem, I'm gonna need you both to summarize what happens in this movie for people.
Yeah.
All right.
Almost like I want to hear like a back and forth.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
a one word at
Like
a time.
Yeah. Like
Kind of thing.
choreographed.
Oh shit!
Yeah.
One word at a time.
It's an
Like
improv.
a phrase.
It's an improv
I don't know.
game.
Do you
Let's
want
do
to
it.
do you want to do like a few words at a time?
Sure, like one
Okay.
one sentence. Do you want me to kick things off?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So, Barbarian is a film that explores the question of if you were to arrive, on a dark, stormy night at your Airbnb and find it were double booked, would you be more comfortable if it was double booked by a man or a bear or a superhumanly strong creature that wants to be your mommy?
That felt really not tandem-y to me.
That's the handoff. That's
the handoff?
setup.
That's the exposition. Okay. But what else can I say without spoiling the film?
You can spoil
I
the
guess
film.
I
Don't
could
they spoil the film?
We do spoil the film. Yeah.
Okay.
Spoilers.
Well,
That was just for the listeners.
you discover that the superhuman lady monster is not the worst thing in the basement, and Justin Long is also in it.
Yeah.
Which
Yep.
that's
So
important.
yeah, it is important. Justin Long adds a dick swinging energy to the film. A real
Which is
dick
really,
swinging.
it's funny because I haven't seen too many Justin Long movies.
Have you seen
but like
Tusk?
I haven't seen Tusk.
I have not seen Tusk.
But is he swinging his dick in Tusk?
I don't want to give anything away about Tusk, but I don't think he has a dick in the end.
Oh, okay.
Ooh,
I feel
no
like
I'm not sure. I don't
swing.
remember the exact.
I feel like he's just always kind of like mousy boy characters.
Yeah.
Like
as opposed to the
as opposed to
dick.
what he is in this, which just constantly reminded me of Anthony Kiedis, which I always see him.
Wow, that is so accurate. I
Yeah.
feel like. And I did not think of that at all, but now that you say
Well, it's
it.
because of what social media is doing to my brain as well, because I get a lot of Instagram posts of bands where the members of the band are other actors and things. And so like oftentimes I'll get this post that's like it's like it's a Red Hot Chili Peppers poster, but none of the people are actually the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Oh, right.
And Justin Long is always Anthony Kiedis.
Uh-huh.
And then there's like Will Ferrell,
yeah.
and like
I see. I was like, and Willem Dafoe as Flea.
right. No, they're
Actually,
kind of like
that
celebrity
works.
doppelgangers. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. What an algorithm you
What?
have.
It's a little bit about the weird world that I
That's wild.
inhabit.
Yeah. I don't know. What else can I say about this film?
I'm good with it.
think it's
cool.
good. Yeah.
fine.
Dive in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes we some people want to go point by point. Some people want to just give more like a preface, like an overview.
Some
Yeah,
people it's more
'cause,
like
like-
a Netflix description.
Yeah. I definitely on my last one had like a one sentence summary. That's
Well, and I think that's appropriate too, because like, it should. I try to say this more and more often, but like, if you haven't seen this movie yet, you should probably stop listening to this right
Yeah,
now
100%.
and watch it first.
That's why I'm
Yeah.
several episodes behind on your
Right,
podcast right now.
right.
No, this movie I watched it
Yeah.
for the first time whenever it came out. I don't know. Without knowing anything, and it's
Yep.
so much better.
Oh, it's
Yes.
way better.
Yeah,
It's great.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
great every time I watch it.
I knew nothing
but-
about it.
I did
the first
too.
Time I saw
Right?
it, yeah.
It's like,
But
yeah.
I will say one of the things I enjoyed about watching it again now was when you do go into it knowing more about what is happening, what is
Yeah.
going to happen, and how it is going to be structured.
Yeah.
A lot of things about it hit me very differently
Same.
in a
Yeah.
way that is sort of a joy to think
Yeah.
about as far as interpretation.
because you can like kind of think through it more and like
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
know
when
who
you're
people are.
when you're going in blind, which I think is the way to watch this movie the first time, it's a ride. Like it sets you up, and I feel like the movie is bookended with very sort of classic horror setups and tropes, like the way it things get rolling and the way things wrap up. But then where it starts to go in the middle is there are at least two times when you're like, oh, something different's happening now.
Yeah,
Not like,
yeah. It like, I mean, there's spoilers, whatever. It's like there's that shift when suddenly like we shift from Tess's perspective to then Justin Long coming in. And then when Justin Long gets like trapped, suddenly we've shifted to a like the flashback.
Yeah.
Perspective.
Oh,
yes.
Frank.
There are some real stark tonal shifts in
Oh,
this
yeah.
movie.
Yeah.
Which I love.
I love them.
Me
They're
too.
so fun.
It makes it so... Yeah, it makes it really, really fun to watch.
Yeah.
And fun to watch again. Acts, the defined act structure of this movie, I really appreciated.
Totally. We should get into some analysis here. Like, I feel like the structure helps us to like appreciate how the kind of like different smaller ideas are kind of connected. You know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yes, because there's like layers of things, which I feel like you kind of notice like the more you watch it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and with a title like Barbarian, you're sort of set up to start wondering who's the barbarian.
Who's the barbarian?
The
Yes.
minute you start, and I think each act sets up a different barbarian. And I think you could make an argument for any of them being, or all of them being the barbarian of the film,
Yeah.
including Tess.
Yeah, I would think that's a good take. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that too.
Yeah, I like that. I had felt fairly strongly that AJ is the barbarian.
Yeah, rewatching it for the third time this time, I thought the same thing. Because when he's down in the basement, I don't know, are we starting analysis?
Yeah,
Are we
let's
doing
go.
that?
Let's do it. Insert music here.
But as I was doing it, I was like, this theme, and this theme. And I was like, Jen, you have to fucking pick a theme. Because I feel like there's so many.
Yeah, so true.
So like sexual assault is a theme.
Sure.
When he's in the basement talking to, is it Frank?
Yep.
The old
Yeah.
serial
Yeah.
killer guy?
Yeah.
He's afraid of the woman,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
creature per
That's-
se.
Yeah.
But
He's immediately buddies with.
yeah,
Yeah.
he
Yep.
like sees them on the same plane
Really
until
striking.
he puts like the VHS tape in, and then he's like, "Oh my god, what a monster!" But actually, I think AJ and Frank are the same.
Oh, yeah.
and I think they're
Absolutely.
just like different generations of
Yeah.
rapists.
Yeah.
Like, yeah,
Well, and there was something truly like AJ has that moment. This was another moment that felt very different on the second watch versus the first. But toward the very end of the film, AJ has that sort of like really insincere monologue about like, I don't know if maybe I'm a bad person, or maybe I'm a good person who did a bad thing, but I blah, 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 blah. And then he immediately, like the first chance he has to throw someone under the bus and then try to, and I was really when he talked about that, it was funny thinking about him and you know, how Frank is sort of this mirror of, you know, what he could be and is this much more extreme version, but also how much worse is it really, and all that. And so he's like, oh, am I a bad person? But I can be better, and blah, 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 and saying all this stuff. And we had just rewatched the Inside, the Bo Burnham special from after the pandemic, and it was reminding me of the song with the sock puppet about how the world works. And he's like, why do you rich fucking white people insist on viewing every sociopolitical conflict through the myopic lens of your own self-actualization? And I'm like, oh, that's what
he's doing right there. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's because I think it's like the movie's about sexual violence and gendered violence.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I think also like on a larger scale than that, I was really seeing that it's not just about those things and those actions and the people who commit them, but also the larger systems that are in place that facilitate and allow those to continue. And there were some little details that pointed me in that direction that we can talk about when we get there. But
what little details?
I think we're there.
We're there. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't know, like when we get the shift to Justin, like the Justin-centered act in the middle.
AJ centered.
Justin Long.
The Justin
AJ.
Long centered act.
Fucking Justin.
So that's because like each of the three kind of acts of the film are sort of centered around a different man and the impact of his actions. So you have what's his name, Keith, the Skarsgard in the first act, and then we lose him, and then we have AJ, Justin Long's character, and then the introduction of Frank and his impact in for that third chunk of the movie. But when they introduce AJ, he's like got that scene where he's driving down that highway by the ocean, and he's singing along to this song, and we went to look up what the song was. So it's a song by Donovan called Rikki Tikki Tavi, which is all the lyrics are about like Rudyard Kipling stories, and he's singing along to these lyrics about, colonizing India. And he doesn't really know what it means, but he's all in. And I think that's, that was one of the things for me that stood out as being all about like exploitation on a larger sense. Sure. There are a lot of things that tie into, it's not just his actions, but all these larger forces that they're tied into. And like immediately after which he's on that phone call with his agents who are like not trying to be mean to him, but are while he's asking all these questions about how it's going to affect his career, and they're like telling him what this person has revealed that he has done to him. So.
And you said exploitation, and I was thinking like right after that, he's like trying to figure out how he can like sell his house, and how he can like add up the rooms to like be more. And I'm like, this is like creepy as fuck, and he's like got a measuring
he's just
tape.
blithely like giggling to himself about how much square footage he's finding.
Like
he's a slumlord. That's one
totally.
of the ways he makes his money, aside from being famous and rapey.
Totally. And I was also thinking about some of like, because I agree that like I feel like rape and rape culture are kind of the centerpiece of the movie, but like there are some other really interesting little like things to pay attention to in there as well. Like I started thinking about Tess and like all that she's going through and the pressure put on her to like stay in this house with Bill Skarsgard. Through like a sort of like a Marxist haves and have-nots lens, right? She's like surrounded by these like she's essentially in like a tent camp. You know what I mean? And like so that's like a very like visible, solid reminder of where she is in this sort of tenuous looking for a job like area that like this like place in life that she finds herself in, where she like really she needs money, obviously, right? And so so that's just like there was like another layer there to me about that as well, that I didn't quite have time to explore more, but I was interested in.
So you're saying like if you can get context clues for the pressure that she feels to stay in the Airbnb with the Skarsgård, like is that the sort of question that you're posing is like, is she a have or a have not?
I mean, I think that I would put her in the have nots area, because if she was a have, she wouldn't have to, she would find some other lodging situation. Like she's clearly like uncomfortable with that.
Yeah. She has an old car.
Yeah. She's an old car. And she's looking for a job. Like, that's the number one thing, right? Like, she's seeking employment so that she can probably eat, right? And, and just all that, like, the scene where she comes out of the interview and she tells the person she was interviewing with where she's staying, and she goes, like, white in the face, and she's like, where are you staying? Right? There's just, like, this real sense of, like, kind of two worlds there, in my opinion.
Yes, absolutely. But I do think, like, that I think there are sort of layers of have and have not, because I think that Tess, I mean, we literally meet this other character who's a houseless person who's living in that neighborhood.
One of the only trustworthy, helpful people.
Who she doesn't trust at first.
Right. It's very Shakespearean.
Right. And there's like, and there's clearly a gentrification element to this as well, because
which is true.
There is this neighborhood is set up as like, the Skarsgård says something about it being like one of the areas that they might be targeting for his art cooperative rehabilitation program.
Right.
And I like that this film has like a little bit of a mystical, like evil placeness to it. Like, and I think that kind of, I don't know, this is a half-baked thought, but kind of sets up the idea, the like stark gentrification lens that you're viewing this home through. It's like people are attempting to gentrify this area, but the land itself is like resisting it. Like the house is resisting it because it's like cursed. But that's like an excellent allegory for, you know, it's all of the curse of this home can be positioned within like the sociopolitical curse of living in the Rust Belt.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So.
And like the Reagan era, like the white flight from Detroit, like all of that
neighborhoods,
stuff.
The neighborhood's going to hell.
Yeah,
That's what the neighbor says before.
Right, says to the
person.
most hellish person in the neighborhood.
Literally
And he says
murdering.
like, you better get out before like you can't or something. And he's like, I'm never leaving.
Right.
Yeah.
And you see like the cops won't come to that neighborhood. Like that's.
They don't take her seriously, right?
But when she calls in the beginning, when she's afraid of the person who she thinks is bad, but who's actually trying to help her, the cops are like, oh, there's no, I forget what they say, but like.
No available units.
That's it. No available units.
I was saying this to Sam last night. I grew up in Cleveland, which Detroit is definitely more of a symbol of the Rust Belt than Cleveland, but there are some very similar there are a lot of similarities between Detroit and Cleveland, especially in the fact that there are all of these areas that were once affluent that are now just in ruin. And I told Sam, like, I was taking CPR training or first aid training or something for a summer camp that I worked at as a teenager. And the guy teaching us CPR said, oh, yeah, we just don't respond to calls in East Cleveland.
Wow.
Damn.
Wild.
Because of the drive-by shooting problems.
Yeah.
Because the ambulances... They claimed the ambulances would get shot up, but this was the movie sets up a little fun critical observer argument. I think also through like not allowing you to get too attached to one character at a time.
That's true.
It sets up a fun critical observer argument about like a chicken or egg thing. If the land was cursed and then the curse like created this monster, or I don't know, that maybe it sets up this argument about whether the land is cursed or whether like the society is cursed. Yeah. And I felt like on this watch I was getting a lot more of the society is the curse because it allows these harmful individuals to flourish under. I was really struck on this watch by how all of these sort of authority figures and these managers of systems that are in place to support socially are completely unhelpful and even harmful. The police are a big one. Yeah.
But the property manager who's never there.
And is that the one that he talks to on the phone?
Yes.
And she almost kind of like hangs up on him.
She does hang up on him.
Yeah, she doesn't give a shit.
Which I would hang up on him too.
Oh, sure.
But he's the only person
But
who
he's
she
the
picks up the
owner
phone
of it,
for.
and he doesn't care. He doesn't know what's happening
Yeah.
there, so he's also like part of the problem.
Yep. Very much so.
Yeah, the police, the property manager, the lady at the supermarket.
Yes.
Who, when Frank is buying plastic sheets.
Oh, yeah.
Just helps.
I was trying to think. I was like
get
supermarket.
everything he needs, and which of course, there's also this bent in this film to like individual altruism is completely insignificant because like Tess keeps being altruistic, and this lady at the supermarket is altruistic. She's like, oh, you're having a baby, let me help you out, but actually she just gives him all of the tools to like get rid of bodies, and to raise generations of trapped people in his basement,
to birth these children on his own,
to imprison people.
Yeah.
And she's like, here you go, and like she of course is, to our knowledge, the only knowledge we have about her being altruistic and kind, by helping this guy find the things he needs for his new baby.
Yeah.
And that's all we see Tess do is she goes back to help him get out of that fucking house. And he literally just drops her off of a fucking building.
Oh my God. Yeah. And when he drops her off and she's still alive, the thing he says afterwards reminded me of how he talks about like raping the girl.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Where
Yeah.
it's like,
all
yeah,
part
I
and
had
parcel.
no choice.
Yeah,
choice.
I had no choice. Like, it's so fake. Everything.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it also speaks to something in his mind that kind of can't connect these kind of disparate. I think that he feels bad for having accidentally shot Tess in the hallways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so
But
too.
he does like, and then he has that big moment where he's like, I did a bad thing. I think he's really only talking about shooting Tess in the hallway there. Like he's not
Yeah.
connecting that to like the larger context of his crimes.
I
Like
agree.
He
Yeah.
is part of the both like horror and the comedy of that character is his utter lack of self-awareness.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And again, you see this system around him. His mother,
Yeah.
his agents, even the people who work for him and manage his money and manage his career, who kind of cancel him
Right.
to avoid being implicated, but
Right.
not out of any sort of like
moral.
Yeah. He is so. Everything allows him to continue on in this completely oblivious way where every decision he makes is only about how
But
it
he
affects
is
him.
that like upper class white male.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who can just walk right through, like even when he opens the door and he walks right downstairs, he's like,
Yeah.
he's like, what is all this trash? Like not even worrying about
Yeah.
like there's a laptop,
Rifling
Someone
through
probably
people's
got-
stuff,
yeah.
like just everything he does is this violation.
But
Yeah.
he thinks he can like.
and
I
then he
feel like
tosses the computer, right?
Yes,
He just like
yeah.
throws
Throws
it.
it.
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
just showing that like he only thinks about himself
Yeah.
and the way that like I don't know, he is that character in the film because even
Yeah.
we don't get
Yeah.
a whole lot of like, is it Bill Skarsgard, whatever, Keith?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's-
Like
yeah.
we obviously I love the way it's done at the beginning because it's like you're like, I don't know, like don't go in there,
Right.
But like he kind of represents the nicer guy, even though we don't know anything
Yeah.
really about him.
Well, I have a
I wonder
whole,
that.
I have a whole thing about him in the first act, which is that like he actually does not do anything threatening.
No,
yeah.
He
No,
does
he doesn't.
nothing threatening to her. He makes her tea. He doesn't pressure her to drink it. He does offer to share the wine with her.
but he
and-
waits
and
to open it.
He waits to open it, but he doesn't. I don't feel pressure her to drink the wine either.
Yeah.
He gives her the room. I think we can gather some context clues as to her needing a place to stay. But there's some really strange stuff about how easy it is for her to there's something really strange to me about how easy it is for her to decide to just stay there when he's already there.
I don't know, but I think that like if she doesn't have a lot of money and she's struggling and she's gonna apply for a job, like there were many times when I was younger where like I ate dinner from a gas
Yeah.
station,
Yeah.
where she might be like, okay, it's raining out, my car is old,
Right.
I don't have extra money probably for a hotel. Like she calls one hotel,
Yeah,
so
she
it's
calls
probably
one
like out of
hotel.
necessity. I feel like
And that I think is like, we can assume that it's out of necessity, but like we're set up in this situation where the lighting and the fact that the first character we see is Tess, so we are automatically suspicious of the Skarsgard,
Right.
because he is lit in this creepy way.
Right.
He's a man,
And
and
he's
she's a girl alone.
Bill Skarsgard.
And
Like-
he's got the sunken eyes of a Skarsgard.
Right. Right.
And that's a certain Skarsgardiness. But I do think this time watching it, I was like, from the perspective of the person staying in this Airbnb, this would be fucking terrifying if somebody was banging on your door, getting into the lockbox. And of course he wouldn't come to the door the first time. I wouldn't come to the door the first time
In
if
that
somebody
area,
in that
yeah.
area
Nor
was
would
knocking
I.
on the door in the middle of the night.
Yep.
He comes to the door. He lets her in. He's like, you stay here. Would you like some tea? I'm going to drink this free wine. But I don't know. He doesn't actually do anything creepy. And then he is like, oh, the basement is creepy. That I don't love how he gaslights her there about the basement being creepy.
I think that's his like fatal error.
But I think that's
Yeah.
like, right. He gets horribly punished. He asks for help. And that's another way where he's like, oh, they make this. He like does this individual altruism of letting her stay, giving her the bed, checking out the scary murder basement dungeon room, and he dies. He just immediately gets his head smashed.
Yeah.
And
no man's head survives this movie.
Yeah. It's true.
Yeah. She survives, but like, is that better?
I'm really interested in that because I think the Keith character is very interesting for all those reasons. You light that scene differently and put different music under it. I was saying it's more like an awkward comedy.
Yeah.
Right.
And for me, this was another example of sort of the larger social script dictating this interaction in a way where they can't entirely function as these isolated individuals because they're both aware, and he is tripping over himself trying to address the fact that it's there without addressing too much that it's there, that she is a woman alone at night. And she was not expecting him to be there, and he is the danger, even though if you watch the movie from his perspective, this strange person is trying to get into his house that he's been staying in for a week.
And then she won't leave. But she doesn't even really try to leave. I understand that we can assume. I love an evidence-based argument, right? So I'm like, we have no evidence we have some small evidence that she needs money. She's staying in a shitty neighborhood and she has a shitty car and she needs a job.
And her relationship with her boyfriend is over or falling apart. She's ignoring him.
But she's looking for the kind of job she's looking for is not she's not looking for a gas station job. She wants to work on a movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right, but that's a very fickle field, I feel like.
I agree.
Well, it's a fickle field, sure, but if you can't she has the money to get to Detroit to do a movie interview, which is not something that anybody who needed a job desperately, like their life depended on it.
No, she definitely has some money.
I think that there are clues, just as many clues to her affluence as there are to her being a have as there are to her being a have-not. She is the gentrifier. She's the tourist. She comes in and she coerces into the space. I think that the first act is set up so that you're like suspicious of him being the barbarian when actually the only behavior in that first act that feels barbaric is hers. Ooh. She stands over him while he's asleep and wakes him up.
But he does say, "Help me."
It
does seem like he's maybe having like a night terror.
But he's having
something.
a night terror. And do you need to wake him up? Like, do you need to? I think that she's the scary one in that.
But I don't
first
think
act.
that makes her bad.
I don't think that makes her bad. I don't think that her. I think that it's that we're set up with an assumption of who is going to be bad.
Yeah, and
that actually, if we're looking for a barbarian in the first act of the film, it would be Tess, because she is well. I mean, until his head gets smashed. But she also opens up the thing in the basement. She does the don't open that girlfriend horror thing. And I just think that there are so many horror expectations that she as a character subverts in that first act and results in him dying. I think that in that first act I was thinking I wonder if I'll feel like there isn't this guy isn't so bad again when I watch it the second time. And I was like, yeah, well, if in every scene you ask who's the barbarian, I think she stands over him and wakes him up. That's terrifying to wake up and see your guest standing over you.
Well, and I am fascinated by, and I think it goes through the whole movie. You see the characters trying to navigate these tacitly understood social scripts, and either not actively not play into them or take advantage of them.
Right.
And the ones who most actively take advantage of them, I think are often the most, I would think of Frank being the most barbaric character.
But I feel like when I watched the movie, see if how you feel about this. I wasn't looking for the barbarian. It was not important to me to find who the barbarian was in each act. because I feel like each time I watched it, it shifted a little bit. I don't know. How do you guys feel about that? Like, how do you feel like it's necessary?
About not look? Well, I mean, so I do think that the movie is kind of asking you to look at that. I mean, it's called Barbarian, and that word is not used in the script in any way.
It's on
really.
Barbary Street. The house.
Right. It's on
Which is one of the
Barbary.
there are a lot of layers to. I think the movie does ask us to explore who is the who are the barbarians?
No, I totally
what
get
is
that.
the
But...
but
and I think as you go through the film, there's only so much information that you have.
Yeah.
There are some major subversions of our expectations with her. She's a black woman, or a woman of color, I should say, and he's a white guy. But they're both talking about gentrifying this neighborhood together. Participating in these gentrification things. I don't think she's from Detroit. I don't know if he's from Detroit.
Know where she's from, I don't think.
Also, this neighborhood, I don't know if they called it Brightmoor in the film, but this neighborhood's a real neighborhood.
They do say Brightmoor.
Yeah. And where all of the houses are burned out because there were drug cooking fires and nobody would respond to them sometimes. But also just fires, people trying to keep warm, and then they would set the houses on fire because these houses were abandoned and no one would come. When you call the fire department in that part of Detroit, no one comes.
Well,
so all the houses are burned.
And they kind of show that in the beginning.
Exactly,
Yeah, no available units.
So I just I do think that there's I think that she's set up as a character that we're supposed to be sympathetic with, supposed to sympathize with, and I think she doesn't necessarily earn that sympathy until much later in the film, especially not in the first act when she's
I think that she is still sympathetic, but I feel like her actions are what a lot of people would do in that situation.
Absolutely.
Because she says I'm leaving. Does she ask him to go down and look at the basement, or is it just because he gaslights her and doesn't believe her? He
convinces her to say in one of the weirdest little not paradoxical, but puzzling moments for me as a viewer. Moment. He convinces her to stay while he investigates the basement, and everything in my body was just fucking go as soon as he leaves.
This is the part that vexes me so much about that. She says to him, "There's a room downstairs. There's a room with a bed and a bucket." That means nothing to me. What means the most to me about that room is that there's blood all over it.
And the video camera.
And the video, well, she says the camera. That's right.
There's
she says a camera.
Bloody handprint on the wall.
But there's a bloody handprint on the wall. There's blood on the mattress. There's blood everywhere. And she doesn't say anything about that to him, which, of course, I think that we could argue is just a shock reaction. That's makes sense to me. But him not understanding that the severity of that does make more sense to me, given that he doesn't know about the blood. If I heard bed, bucket, camera, I'd be sex.
She
dungeon.
does say,
I'd be it's kinky.
But I do think she says something about a handprint on the wall.
She says something about a handprint on the wall, but I would
blood.
Also read that as kinky before thinking that it was blood.
Yeah. Although, even though she's terrified and clearly knows it's blood on the mattress, this is just not really related, but also related. She touches the mattress to look under the bed, and I was
up so bad. I was
why?
Everything about what she does in that scene, I'm why? And that's what vexes me so much. That's why I have so many conflicts about her character. She does so many non-horror trope things immediately. She does all the not smart things. There's a dude in your Airbnb, child. Get in your car and go somewhere. Do you have gas? Go somewhere.
Right.
That actually would have been really interesting to put in the film if we saw that the gas was low, and so that was another. I don't know.
Well,
I didn't need
there's
it.
so much ambiguity surrounding her.
Yeah, I think that's deliberate. I think it is deliberate that it's ambiguous.
Ambiguity around her because she does these things she's oh yeah, sure, I'll just I'm still gonna go in even though there's a dude. I'm not gonna drive away even though this is clearly a bad situation and nobody's answering the phone. I'm not gonna I'm gonna sleep in the bed. You know, like, I don't know. It's just all these, like...
But I feel like...
little...
Again, might be... Like, I feel like there are reasons that you could see that she would do those. I feel like she's meant to be a blank canvas in the beginning so that you can put yourself in her shoes and like try to like, and
but then myself would not be pulling on the weird rope in the basement and opening up the dungeon and walking in the dungeon door and
she
going
doesn't do it at first. She goes, nope.
Yeah,
that's true. That's true.
But then she just like,
and she eventually,
but that's the thing,
her curiosity gets better.
Yeah, that's the ambiguity around her character for me is like, is she not also in this movie kind of positioned as a colonizer, like coming into this terrible neighborhood, usurping the person who was already there, like delving further and further into the scary dungeon basement,
fucking around and finding out.
And I'm like, I would never, this watch in particular, like, I would never blame her, and might even argue that the narrative clearly paints her killing the mother character is what it listed. She's listed in the credits at the end as mother. Like her finally learning the lesson. Yeah, mother. That's like what she needs to do to survive, and that's the lesson. Like, she survives because she doesn't finally give the benefit of the doubt to her detriment. But also there is also an element of tragedy to her killing that poor, horrible, tortured.
Yeah.
I mean, human being?
No,
right.
She is a human being.
Yeah.
I watched things with subtitles, and it would, at least the subtitles that I had on, would like alternate between calling her the mother and then like the creature or monster. And I was like, I don't agree with that, because she is like what is she? She's the child of rape victims. Right. We are told that it's like, you know, basically
multiple generations.
Basically like inbred, and it's like she's never left the house. The only thing, like, idea she has of people outside of it are this film she watches about like breastfeeding and motherhood. So like, I feel like she's not a monster. I feel like
she's like the most human thing.
Yeah, like I feel bad for her. Like,
well, that's
I think,
really sorry.
No, what were you gonna say?
That's really assisted by that like final moment where it's a very sympathetic moment. Where they have together. Yeah.
It's incredibly sad.
Very like Frankenstein.
Maybe I'll just always think this because I studied Brecht in college, but there is something very Brechtian about this movie in that I don't necessarily think that any of the characters are supposed to be relatable. I think that like we want to see ourselves in Tess, and then she keeps doing all of these things that like you're like, no, girl, don't do it. Don't pull the rope. Don't go inside the dark hallway. And like, those are all of the things that make us have less sympathy for the character. I would feel like in like overall, they challenge our relating to the character, or our like wanting to position ourselves in the eyes of that character.
Yeah.
I think there are a lot of things that remove us and make us more critical of her as a character and of everyone as a character. Yeah, we literally view the Skarsgård through the window first, so that's like that's a layer of removal from this character who we're seeing. You know, we want to see through the eyes of Tess, but Tess keeps doing strange things, or maybe things that, to me, inexplicable that you would only call one hotel and just take this dude's word for it, that there's a conference of some kind.
Right, because there are so
it's a
many...
medical thing, Mandy.
Right.
There's so
that's
many...
wild to me.
There are so many things about him. It's funny that you're saying, like, none of the characters are supposed to be relatable, because there are so many things on this watch that, whereas the first time I watched this movie, I was nervous about Bill Skarsgård the whole time.
Same. Yeah.
This time watching it, I was getting much more like, oh, this is like a lot of these things are how I would be in this situation. You know, like I really and I want to do something nice, but I also want you to see that I'm not trying to do any like we don't know each other and all. But then there are these little moments where he like that where you're like, oh, but are you, what's your deal? And the thing about Keith that's most interesting is we never really find out what his deal is.
Right.
No.
Like, because I think there is evidence that he is being sincere and trying to be helpful and not trying to like play into these stereotypes. I also think there's some evidence that he's into her and is trying to figure out how
can I get
well,
there?
she's into him.
That
clearly.
too, yeah.
Like
Well,
they're clearly flirting.
But yeah, Mandy, I love your analysis of Tess as maybe not like the heroine that she's set up to be and all of this. I really do think that we see Keith. We're meant to see Keith on like a continuum, a spectrum of like the other central male figures we have in this movie. Like kind of like he's on one end, Frank is on the other end, and it kind of like frames AJ as this kind of like interesting figure,
like a splitting of the worlds of
just like
Keith and Frank.
Yeah, kind of.
Interesting.
Where you have like, because like my whole thing, I'm gonna do a really trite English major thing, and I want to.
Oh boy.
I want to talk about Dante and
Joseph
Conrad.
Are we gonna be seeing numbers and things?
No.
Are we
We're
gonna be
not seeing
talking
numbers. We're
about
not seeing numbers. I
nines?
was just getting the feeling, especially in the second, end of first into second act, that we were seeing sort of like, a descent through levels of sorts, right? You've got the Brightmoor area, you've got the house facade, you've got the basement with the cages, then the nursing room, and then at the center of it is Frank's room, and like it just feels Dantean to me. You know what I mean?
It
Like,
definitely feels it's quite literally a descent from the surface level into deeper and deeper levels and deeper levels of what we think are like depravity.
I don't think that it's like I don't think it's like a 1-to-1
I fucking hate
comparison
that.
here. Like that's crazy.
I fucking hate when people superimpose.
No, that's nonsense. But I do think that there's enough of a storytelling tradition about descents into whatever subject you have here that like that becomes meaningful. And I think that the movie really interestingly, as I have said, like centers AJ in a strangely like it really frames him
literally the center of the film.
I weirdly feel like he's actually he's put into the figure of the hero for a lot of it, like for the like heroic journey, right? Descending down to the bottom, and it's supposed to be kind of like a spiritual journey, right? Like all those things, like the heart of darkness, and he's supposed to kind of have learned something from it. I just think that the irony is that he obviously like really very much doesn't
learns nothing.
That's
but
true.
I think what's really smart about the movie is that I feel like they make it ambiguous enough that you almost half believe that he's learning through it.
Yes.
Until the very end.
Until he fails.
Yeah.
I think that there's
Until
like
he fails the actual test. He can say the words and like understand the like, oh, this is what I should be learning. But when the rubber hits the road, he'll throw someone over the edge to save his ass.
Don't meet up with his words.
An interesting comparison to Dante, I also think, is that Frank, at the very center of it, if we're comparing it to Dante in any real way, would be at the bottom level, which is where Satan resides. Satan is frozen in ice. He's immobile. Frank, also immobile.
Oh, yeah.
Can't move. Some of the artist renderings, I honestly feel like sometimes they're kind of trying to make, there's like a lot of like long stringy hair going on there. And like sometimes I feel like maybe there was an intentional.
No,
I do
love
think
that.
that there's like such a visible descent, and then there's such a visible, disgusting little sphere that he's living in at the center of this descent. Like there is like a lot of evidence of the descent and the like real disgusting condition that he lives in. Like even compared to her, the mother.
Well, because he's literally surrounded by the evidence of all of his crimes.
Like he's at the center of it. He's at the they also, so like the bottom row of hell and the inferno is about treason and traitors and betrayers, and I like to take that word and that idea and to interpret it in this way about the genders and the sexes and the power structures therein is a totally Dantean way to take that to with the way he like interpreted the crimes and then assigned the punishments for those things in the book. Like I think that there's a connection there.
No, I love it.
No, and I think that also there's
it.
I haven't read Inferno. I I don't remember what the Dante I read was, but it was so long ago. But like the deepest layer of hell being other people and what the kind of horror that the other people can put you through. I think that's like a really, because like you can't go any deeper, so you go back out into the world, and that's the worst hell of them all. Yeah.
Fun.
Super fun. All right, let's critique. Let's
Yeah.
We could rate it to start the.
A rating.
Yeah.
You guys still do
What's
0 to
the-
10?
Yeah.
Yep, it's 0 to 10, however
0 to
you want to
10.
do it.
Yeah.
For me, like 5 is passable but mid.
Same.
But it's like based on the kind of stuff I'm interested in. Jen does it based
same.
on the stuff she's interested
Yeah.
in.
Right.
So it's not
Absolutely.
like, is it like good? It's like,
Yeah.
do you like it?
Yeah.
You guys want to go first?
Yeah, I'm gonna give it an 8.5. I think it's I think it's an excellent film. I think it's not up there for me with, well, it's up there for me as a film, as a horror film, but like it's not one of my favorites ever. I would say, like I'm not putting it in my top 5, which is the only reason I'm not giving it a 9 or higher.
Right.
Because as a film, I think that they kind of did most of it really fucking well. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to give it an 8 or thereabouts. Same, like a lot of the things that I love and want to see in a horror movie are in this. Like it knows its genre and revels in it, but also tries new things with it. It's got things to say and interpret about society that's larger than the individual characters and story it tells. It's not just a kill fest. Like, it has something to say, but it also, like, as much as it tackles this dark subject matter, it also has a sense of humor, which is something that I really this is a little bit of a tangent, and we can we know I never do that. But so this was written and directed by Zach Creggar, who is from
The Whitest Kids
You Know.
Yeah.
He did The Grapist.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
And so I'm like, I don't know what
What is it with these comedians who do the
comedians
darkest
know
shit?
how to do and I was thinking about my theory about why comedy people are so good at crossing over.
I'm sorry.
Of all things, that was probably where this movie came from.
Right.
Or it's also, I mean, it wasn't him. It was the other guy who did the
one who's dead now.
The one who's dead now, which I learned when I was looking up for this movie. Yeah, the it is. Did you know it's illegal to say I want to kill the president of the United States? Yeah, but it's not illegal right now because I'm just telling you. It would not be illegal to say we have a group that meets under the George Washington Bridge every. The password is Sic Semper Tyrannis. Yeah, so the reason I think comedy people are so good at crossing over into horror is because they're really good at taking a really big or heavy or dark idea and finding a way in that's different from where you might not want to engage with it, and like finding a way to make it appealing to an audience. I think, obviously, like, Jordan Peele is really good at that. Yeah. And I don't know, I don't think this is maybe quite on the cinematic level that I would put, like, Nope.
No, I don't think so either.
But I think it's a really well done movie, and it's and I also appreciate that it engages really thoughtfully with this very, very dark and upsetting subject matter, particularly of the sexual assault, and manages to get that across without reveling in the visual of that, which is a thing that turned me off of a lot of horror movies when I was a teenager. Like, I feel like the 2000s there's a lot of like Fear.com and all these like schlocky horror movies that were like big production value for like watching women be brutalized.
Right, that's right.
And that's not
hostile.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And this is much more what I want out of my horror.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm gonna give it an 8. Like, it's not it's not my favorite movie ever, but I think it's extremely well done and I really enjoy it. So
I think I'm going to be in the same boat as you guys. It's definitely 8+ territory. I only wouldn't give it a 9 because something in it. I can imagine myself in 10 years time kind of forgetting about it until somebody like brought it up to me and be like, oh yeah, that was great.
Good movie.
You know?
Good movie. Yeah, but it's not like it, like Get Out is like a 10.
Well, because Get Out had like, here's the other part of this. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No.
The other part of this
is your moment.
Is like, I feel like Get Out, it is a 9 or a 10 because it not only was excellent and said something really nuanced about race at the moment it was released, but also like played, I truly believe, a pivotal role in the shaping of like people's understanding of race.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I don't know that this movie.
Yeah.
I don't know that this movie really changed a lot of minds about rape. I think it's a little bit preaching to a choir.
I think so. I think that's sort of that it's sort of a fun movie.
Yeah.
I hesitated to use that word, but you're right.
Yeah,
it is a fun movie. Yeah. Totally. Those juxtapositions where like Justin Long falls in the pit and then bam, color in the 80s and like this beautiful suburb. Yeah.
It's kind of a fun piece of media about something inexplicably horrible.
Right.
But it's like, which is part of the reason I love it. It like doesn't take itself too seriously.
Right.
Which I think is a great aspect of a horror film, is when it doesn't take itself too seriously.
Yeah. And I also want to say, to this movie's credit, it did do a few things that I found genuinely very chilling.
Oh, God.
Oh yeah.
And I watch a lot of scary movies these days, and that doesn't come cheap anymore. You know what I mean? Right. I'm thinking about like the very opening. I found so fucking scary. Yeah, where it's just like pitch dark around this car, and what happens is it opens just to darkness. Yeah, and you hear this audio. This very low nhưng, slightly raising, but not very much, like suffering abattoir of souls, was another total Dante connection, right?
Yeah.
But they're all women, and that's so interesting. Yeah. And so that's super like hair raisy. And then fucking that scene where Frank just like goes into her house and just locks the window and leaves.
God.
Like
yeah. So creepy.
Yeah. I mean, he's the scariest monster in the movie. And that's when they unveil who's the real scary monster.
Yeah. Right? Worse than her down there.
Yep. Yeah, that's what that poor unhoused man who's like
man. Who was like the like true most empathetic character in the film.
Oh yeah.
And he's beaten to death with his own arm.
Yeah.
I've been here for 12 years. She's never come up in this motherfucker.
Yeah.
Bam!
Which is also so funny.
Though.
That's
a comedian's dramatic irony.
And it's the comedian's like timing too.
Yes.
I feel like that's another reason. Like it's like the timing. They know when to cut a scene.
Right. Because if they let it hang any longer than that, you're like, okay, we know when's he gonna like? No,
she literally just busts
right
through the
away.
wall like the Kool-Aid man.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Right through the wall. So I'm going slightly different from you guys, and I'm rating it based on the fact that I watched this movie when it 2023 or 2020.
It's 20. I think it was released in 2022.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, whenever that was, I wanted to watch it immediately the next day. So this movie gets a 9. For me.
Awesome.
'Cause I fucking loved it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't put it maybe in my top 5, but it's definitely in my, I would say, top 20. Maybe.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I really like the Dante's Inferno reading
Yeah.
now
Yeah.
because I like, that totally makes sense.
I
but it's
wanted to
not-
hate it because of you being an
so
idiot.
but it's not overtly like you don't watch the movie and you're like, how? But yeah, no, I really okay. So this movie, horror movies don't scare me. Really, it takes a lot for a horror movie to scare me.
You're pretty deep in the genre, I feel like, for it to like have
deep in there.
You're pretty deep in the genre, and I feel like you have like a masochistic streak about it.
I do.
Like,
I want to get beat up.
You seem more
you
unfazed.
want to get beat up?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I don't want to get beat up, but
Figuratively.
Okay.
Emotionally.
That would suck.
Emotionally beat up.
Emotionally.
But I have like recurring nightmares about like houses or buildings that have like endless amounts of room, like secret hidden rooms,
man.
but they're not good necessarily, and they're usually like in the basement.
Right.
So like when this happened, I was like, nope.
Yeah.
This is it. This is my dream. This is fucked up.
Yep. It's a literal nightmare brought to
Yeah.
And I thought the set design was great. Like it was that room with the camera. It was like nothing.
It was so sparse but so effective.
Nothing
Oh my
needed to
God,
be explained to us. We were like, oh, we get it.
We know what to do.
I forgot this was an audio medium for a second, and I was just frowning so hard thinking about that room, just like deep
Can
frown.
I just wait? Can we see that frown? And then
I don't know
wait,
if I
Jen,
can-
can you take a
Yeah,
picture of that
yeah,
frown
yeah,
for
yeah.
Instagram?
For the show,
Think
yeah.
about it. Let me think about the room
That's
a
good.
little
Think
bit.
about that room.
Wait, no. Oh God, it's so hard now. No, let me think about it. No, it was like this.
We're gonna keep all this uncut, baby.
Got it. That's what she said.
Nice.
Yeah, all this is staying in.
Yeah.
That's also what she
Ooh.
said.
I've never been prouder of you.
Legendary.
That's what we see in each other.
Yeah, right.
To answer the question from the
No,
beginning of the
the
podcast.
set design was excellent. Like, I'm thinking too about how they made the Airbnb-ness.
Yes.
Oh,
it looked like a
totally.
legit
You've been in
everything.
that Airbnb.
Yeah,
It's-
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've
Yep.
been in that with the free wine and the fucking little key thing outside
Yep.
that pain in the ass.
And the like everything looks new, but in a very cheap way, like very facade-y, very
Yep. Yeah.
Well, if there are no new renters, there's no maid service.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think that 9 is totally deserved. It's
Yep.
a great movie.
It's a great movie.
I'm glad one of us is having the guts to put it up
No.
there. You
Yeah.
know what
No,
I mean?
I love it.
Third 9.
It's the third 9 for you.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
What were the other ones?
Skinamarink.
Oh my God.
Keeps going up. I love it.
I guess we'll have to agree to disagree.
And stop motion.
Oh, I love that movie. That was a great movie.
That was a bonkers
That's
movie.
a fucking great movie.
bonkers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should we pick the hottest?
Who's the hottest?
Who's the
I have a
hottest?
clear answer.
Me too.
I have no problem.
All right. Do you want to go first?
Yeah, I'm gonna say Bill Skarsgard. I think his hotness is so. He's one of those like strange, weird hot people. I feel like
No,
he's
I
like
gotcha.
he's like Dr. Frankenstein is making a hot person, and he's got his like essence of hot person, and we're gonna add just one little droplet of like Steve Buscemi.
Yeah.
And like, and that's what you get is Bill Skarsgard.
Asked for the face of like handsome movie star, and it's like Igor dropping the brain.
Yeah.
Right? It's
Yeah.
like, oh, all we
Yeah.
have left is Steve Buscemi.
You want to like have the eyes bulge out a little bit
Yeah.
in your like guy.
Yeah.
Also, I was literally gonna pick Bill Skarsgard.
Go ahead.
as well.
So why for
he's
you, then?
also like he's like weird
Yeah.
looking.
Yeah.
hot.
And he's kind of the horror guy now. He's
Yeah,
like
he
in
is.
everything. Yeah.
Weird,
and I feel like
Weird
there's
does
like
it for me for sure.
quirkiness to him. Yeah.
No, but obviously for me, the hottest person in this film is Tess.
Yeah, I'm with you.
No question.
I am with you on Tess. Also,
She's just
things
really
we see in
hot.
each other.
She's just hot.
But yeah,
Hot
though
lady.
I'm glad to hear some love for Bill Skarsgård because I was watching it feeling like he's lit and presented to be really unnerving.
Yeah.
But like that was part of me watching it the second time and being like, oh, he's like kind of like a nice, kind of handsome dude. And I think if they didn't have him with his eyes so sunken in, he would have.
Yeah.
And then it's funny because I looked him up on Wikipedia. I'm like, I wonder what he. Oh no, his eyes are just like that. Okay,
Yeah,
got it.
No, that's
they're
just
like
First you see him and you're like, pass, and then he's in the light and you're like, smash.
Yeah, no, and that's how I feel about it. But I feel like Tess was just a
No,
straight
yeah.
like she's
Straight
just the
hottie.
hottest.
Straight
one
up
in the
She
movie.
was
hot.
my second pick.
Cool.
Boobs.
Boobs.
Oh my god, this is
That's all I
related
have
to
to say.
boobs. I can't find it, but there was a reel that is somewhere on Instagram by this comedian, and the person I think is like, "Oh, I don't like boobs," and this goes back to this like lesbian comedian, and she's like, "But they're boobs.
They're boobs.
They're boobs."
Yeah, if you don't like boobs, whatever. Shut up. Shut
I don't
up.
like you.
Everyone
You're
likes
rich.
boobs.
Right.
You must be
like the Beatles are overrated.
Right,
Like,
right,
yeah,
right.
fuck off.
Fuck off.
Fuck off. You're lying. Everybody knows you're lying.
High school's over, man. Just,
You all-
yeah, like
Everybody was drawn to a tit.
Yeah,
Believe in something.
I like that. Yes. Yep.
Yeah, everybody was born wanting boobs.
Everyone dies wanting boobs.
Except for that one scene of Justin Long in this movie. That's the
he didn't want that boob.
Yeah.
No, sure didn't want that boob.
Wow, that
That's
was
true.
really good. So
tying
good.
it back in.
Topical point you made.
Yeah.
Do we need to find the dick?
Are there any dicks in this movie?
Are there?
Okay, so
there's
this
a
is a
lot
game
of-
about finding metaphorical dicks.
There's a lot of metaphorical dicks.
Yeah.
They're just the people.
I don't know.
Ooh, biggest one or just everybody?
Oh, like
I
the
like biggest
If
one.
we had to pick one to be,
Is it like, are we talking like phallic imagery
Yes.
in the movie, or just more like who's this? Yeah, who represents
the biggest? Yes,
Yes,
Yeah,
to both.
all of it. Both
Great,
things.
cool. Any?
Yeah.
Cool, I'm down
Actual
with this.
dick, you know.
I think in terms of the biggest, just size-wise, Frank, as a very long man, appears to be very long, and also it arguably has done the most harm.
Yeah, with it just
So-
like a big violating.
Yeah, but honorable mention to that cop
Totally.
Oh my god, the
who
most
was like,
so
Hands
annoying.
off the car, ma'am.
yeah,
Oh, it's so frustrating.
yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if like the thing is that like this movie is so much about sexual violence, that,
Right.
Like
Yeah.
there's
Not
not as
everything is the
Right,
dick. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. I'm trying to think
I
if
don't
there
know.
are
Bill
any...
Skarsgard is also tall, probably. He
Yes.
looks tall. in
So
the
that
film,
means-
so he might be a big dick
Yeah.
as well.
I feel like AJ is really obsessed with the square footage of,
Oh,
That's
yeah.
house, man.
and he's just like measuring, and it's getting bigger, and he's
Stretching out
cackling,
that,
and he's like,
that
yeah.
tape measure. That's just,
it's so big! I can't believe how big it is.
it's got that the camera is like not a huge focus in the torture room, but there's that camera as violating.
Yeah.
I can do this all day.
All day, yeah.
I can
Low-hanging
talk
fruit.
about dicks all day.
Low-hanging fruit.
There's a dick. Here's a dick. There's a dick.
Everywhere
Everywhere
a
a
dick. Yeah.
Old McDonald had a dick.
I was gonna go like,
that's
because the
also
dick's in his mouth.
awesome. I was
I
just
get
going to tie it back to more of earlier in the podcast. That sounds like something that Anthony Kiedis would legitimately write as a
Oh,
lyric.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like the Freaky Uplift era.
Purring.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there was anything else that we talked about last night about this film that we wanted to say. But I really feel like I had enough beer in me to make a Marxist interpretation out of it, so I'm probably done here,
I've done
Like
my
that's probably all
I've done
you
my
need.
job.
That's really all you can really count on me for.
Awesome.
She came, she drank, she
Dialectic.
Dialectics, yeah.
get
That's-
that. You're allowed to use that as merch for your.
Yeah, for sure.
But Mandy gets a cut. Mandy gets a
I need
cut.
to discuss that with my lawyer, my attorney.
Well, can someone give us a soundbite to close us out then? Some examples of previous soundbites have been.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
And
That was a good one.
And
What about the noise that I made earlier with the? That's
dicks in your mouth?
horrible.
That was especially like right up. You really used the proximity effect of that microphone.
That's the dick in the mouth.
Yeah, no, I got it. It comes across even in an audio medium.